we'll start from we had done this part, but we'll just go back to keep the continuity. So I say, apart from this, religion on its doctrinal side, as defined by Professor Whitehead, is a system of general truths which have the effect of transforming character when they are sincerely held and vividly apprehended. Whitehead's definition can be read as a functionalist definition of religion, but since he says that it's a system of general truths, then more charitable reading is that, transformation is part of what religion aims at, and not just for functionalist reasons, because the main part of it is the truth, not the effect, which we see as the result of the adoption of those truths. So now, since the transformation and guidance of man's inner and outer life is the essential aim of religion, and as I said, by religion here we either mean Christianity or Islam, it is obvious that the general truths which it embodies must not remain unsettled. So if the religion is religion come with a system of truth, general truths, as he says. There are two aspects to these. He says that they shouldn't remain unsettled. They shouldn't remain unsettled. So there are two aspects of this. As far as they are, if you're talking about Christianity or Islam, obviously those truths are based on revelation. And revelation provides the foundation. So there's no question of them remaining unsettled in that sense. What we need to make sure are two things. The first thing is that these truths, the revelation is actually a genuine one. So you can call this rational foundation, and that's what rational foundation of religion mean, really, and that's what Al-Kalam does. And if you read at Al-Ghazali's definition of Al-Kalam, I made some videos on it, so you can check them out. That's how he defined the purpose of Al-Kalam, to make sure that revelation is genuine. The revelation is genuine, that is from God, and not from our own self or some other deception. So that's one way. The religious. So the first way is making sure that the general truths are let's. So first, make sure that revelation actually is genuine. And this can be that should be based on the rational foundation in that sense, because revelation itself cannot do it, because that will lead to regress, in a sense, infinite regress in argument, because revelation. So that's why at some point you have to make sure, based on sources outside revelation, that is your own mind, because at the end of the day you are the one who are responsible, because you're okay. So in that sense, rational foundation make total sense. The second sense in which religion need rational foundation is that you need to understand revelation, and there's no other method for us to understand anything except for, we have to, because it is linguistic, we have to understand it within the given rules and regulation of a particular language in which revelation is to be found. And the second thing is, you have to use our reason. There's no other. So that's the second sense in which reason provide rational foundation for religion. As far as I can see, there's no third sense as far as the Islamic Christianity are concerned. You can talk of rational foundation. And when people talk about it, apart from the other two senses, that's just taking reason to be what it is not. And that's what many so-called rationalists or rationalism. So rationalism is not a... Rationalism doesn't mean you believe, you believe in reason, or you use reason, or you put reason where it is. But rationalism is actually exaggerating what reason can do. And what... So in that sense, rationalism try to provide additional functions to reason as far as revelation is concerned. But there's no other function, because, and that's my fourth point, I'll go back to after this. This is my fourth point, because revelation doesn't come... It's a source of knowledge here. It doesn't come to tell us anything which we can get through our senses and reason. It doesn't make sense. God has given us sense and reason to use them. So it doesn't make sense for him to say don't use them. And it doesn't make sense to say that revelation will come to tell us something which can be settled through reason. So it actually comes with things, very few things really, which we need, and which we can't get through our other sources of knowledge. That seems to me, at this stage anyway, pretty clear. And but obviously here Iqbal at least is going beyond these senses in which it seems to be anyway. Now, since the transformation and guidance of man's inner and outer life is the essential aim of religion, it is obvious that the general truths which it embodies must not remain unsettled. General truths of reasons are not unsettled. It comes to settle the questions which we aren't able to settle, what is unsettled is whether, that revelation or that claim is genuine. And that can be settled only through use of reason, because otherwise it would lead to an infinite regress. And the second use of reason is that revelation has to be understood in human language and in human understanding. There's no other way. And thirdly, there's no other sense of rational foundation of religion. Fourthly, revelation doesn't come to settle things which can be settled through reason and senses. In that sense, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Antum a'lamu bi umuri dunyakum." You know better your own worldly affairs. And what he meant was those affairs which can be settled through your senses and your reasons and your customs and your traditions. So no one would hazard action on the basis of a doubtful principle of conduct. Now, in our Ilm al-Kalam and Usul Fiqh, doubt or shak just mean when the state of affairs which can be interpreted in two ways, let's say, and I can't decide between what is the correct way or what is true, then so that's what doubt is, doubt or shak. So human conduct cannot be based on doubt. There's not, but that doesn't mean that human conduct has to be based on certainty, because most of our principles, religious or non-religious, because of the essential element of human understanding, are based on what we call zan. That is probable judgments or probabilistic claims. So probabilistic claims are whenever there's a state of affairs and there are more than one possibilities which you can think of, and you give preference to, or you give weightage to one possibility at the expense of other, then that is probable judgment. So when you give, for example, 51% chance and 2 is equal, so that's 49%. So that's the probable knowledge or probable state of affairs. And until 99, from 51 to 99, this is all probable state of affair. And that's most of our life is based on probabilistic knowledge, and we can't go beyond that. That's how human beings are. That's our limitation. That's this life. So when he said no one would hazard action on the basis of doubtful principle option, so doubtful means, those action, those probabilities are 50 or less than 50. So, but most of our other principles we follow, their understanding or their probability is somewhere between 51 and 99, and mostly, in the lower side. So we always base our. So there's no question of absolute certainty in most of our conduct. Indeed, in view of its function, and here again it seems like a functionalist. But if it is one of function and the overriding thing is truth and not the function, then charitable reading again is that He's not talking about a functionalist definition of religion. Indeed, in the view of its function, religion stands in greater need of rational foundation. Religion in greater need of rational foundation in the sense number one and number two, as I said, because it deals with the segment of a life which is very important to us in determining the meaning of life and the direction of life, not for anything or any other reason. Religion stands in greater need of rational foundation of its ultimate principle that even the dogmas of science. As I said, science really doesn't care about religion or modern science. I mean science, that's what I mean by science. It's a particular view of knowledge. There can be other views of knowledge, a particular view of knowledge, a particular view of knowledge. Which is based on a particular view or understanding of the world and our place in it. So in that sense, it's obviously based on a prior worldview, but since it pretends to deal only with empirical matters, it never actually tries to make those explicit, at least not in its mainstream work. Science doesn't deal with those questions. So science in that sense doesn't really care about because the very basis of science is either is practical success, so technology and all that, and also based on its method, which is the method of empirical research. And we don't have any problem with that, but the main problem we have is with science or something similar to science, which denies that it's based on a particular way of looking at the world, as if the information science gathers cannot be interpreted in the context of another worldview. So science, and at least science in its mainstream context, doesn't care about its foundation because it thinks that its foundation is provided by its method and its success. So that's why you find some sort of crisis in science only when it's unable to deal with things. And yeah, so indeed, in view of the functions, religion stands in greater need of a rational foundation of its ultimate principle than even the dogmas of science. Science may ignore a rational metaphysics. Indeed, it has ignored it so far. Religion can hardly afford to ignore the search for a reconciliation of the oppositions of experience, and a justification of the environment in which humanity finds itself. Religion can hardly afford to ignore the search for a reconciliation of the oppositions of experience. Reconciliation. Well, this again Hegelian opposing experiences. And what else? reconciliation of the oppositions of experience, and 4, to explain the search for a reconciliation of the oppositions of experience and a justification of the environment in which humanity finds itself. Justification. The environment, that is our world, isn't it? Our universe, where we find ourselves being in the world or whatever. By justification, firstly, the purpose of religion, at least not in Islam or Christianity, to reconcile opposing views, but to is truth. That's Surah Al-Fatiha, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, or الحق من ربك فلا تكن من الممترين, or various Quranic and prophetic sayings, and Al-Haq, the truth, is one of God's name. I can accept justification only to the extent at this point that religion tries to provide what he says, justification of the environment in which humanity. So justification in the sense that it gives us justification. It gives us what is our maqam, what is our real maqam, station, or maqam, real place. So it makes claims about real place in this world and in this universe. So it tells us what is our relationship with our own self, with other selves, humans, non-human, with God, with this world, and with the universe as a whole. So what is so in that sense, it tries to tell us our real place in this world, and that's the basic function of both Christianity and Islam. So justification in that sense, but reconciliation, that's very Hegelian notion, at least the mainstream Christianity and Islam. The main focus is not reconciliation but truth. It is accepted that we can't solve this problem of truth in this world, but that's another story. And justification in the sense that it tells us, and that's one of the greatest, if there is a need of religion, is that it tells us what our real station in this world, and how we are related to this world and this universe and other human beings and other beings in general. And philosophy, if it is an opposing force to religion or another competing force, it can be only that sort of philosophy which tries to give alternative definitions or alternative notions of our place in the nature based on sufficient reason, and denies revelation totally. This is why Professor Whitehead has acutely remarked that the ages of faith are the ages of rationalism. The ages of faith are the ages of rationalism. I think we will start with that next time, because that will take us too far ahead of the time allocated for this. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.